welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. Emergency Management Log Entry Number 2847. Date: October 15, 2024. Time: 15:47 Pacific Standard Time. Coordinator: Varick Ash, Emergency Management District 7. Incident Classification: Weather Advisory Maritime Fog. Status: Routine. This is Emergency Coordinator Varick Ash beginning standard documentation for maritime fog event affecting Crescent Bay and surrounding coastal areas. 8 years on this job, and I've logged more fog advisories than I care to count. Pacific Northwest autumn. Fogs as predictable as rain in January, except today's timing was off. Weather Service issued the advisory for 15:45 hours. Dense fog bank approaching from southwest, visibility dropping to less than 50 meters. Standard precautionary measures for maritime traffic and coastal highways. I've worked with meteorologist Lisa Gale for 3 years now, and her timing's usually accurate to within minutes. Professional, thorough, never misses the small details that matter for emergency response. But the fog didn't roll in at 15:45. It arrived at exactly 16 hours. I'm noting the 15-minute discrepancy because precision matters in emergency coordination. When weather patterns shift from predicted timing, it affects traffic management, harbor operations, and search and rescue preparedness. What bothers me isn't that it was late. Weather's unpredictable. What bothers me is how exactly it hit that 4 o'clock mark. I was monitoring from the Emergency Command Center on Harbor Hill, clear view of the bay through the observation windows. The fog bank approached in a perfect line, edge so straight it looked drawn with a ruler. Uniformity like that isn't natural. Fog formations are chaotic, organic, they billow and shift with air currents, temperature variations, topographical features. This looked more like a gray wall sliding across the water. 16:05 hours. Harbor Patrol Chief Elric Mercer radioed in. Commercial fishing vessels Mary Catherine and Salt Promise returning to port ahead of schedule. Both captains reported unusual conditions, but declined to elaborate over radio. Maritime protocol suggests they'll file written reports, but fishermen don't typically cut trips short for standard fog banks. These are experienced professionals who work in all weather conditions. 16:12 hours. First civilian reports of visibility issues on Coastal Highway 101. Standard protocol engaged, electronic road signs activated, speed limit reduction warnings, traffic advisory broadcast on local emergency frequency. No incidents reported, but several drivers called in to report that the fog bank had geometric edges and seemed to move with purpose. Filed under subjective observations, stress and reduced visibility affect perception. 16:18 hours. Attempted radio contact with Weather Service. Lisa Gale responded immediately, which is unusual. Typically takes her several minutes to get to the radio during active weather events. Her voice carried a tension I hadn't heard before in 3 years of coordination. "Varick, I need to be honest with you," she said. "The meteorological data doesn't support what I'm seeing on satellite imagery. The fog formation is too precise, too controlled. Temperature gradients are wrong, humidity levels don't match the formation density, and the movement pattern defies current wind readings." When a meteorologist with 12 years of experience says the weather is behaving wrong, I pay attention. 16:23 hours. Radio static began affecting emergency frequencies. Not interference, static, like the kind you get during electrical storms, but the sky was clear above the fog bank. The interference only occurred when transmissions attempted to penetrate the fog-covered areas. Communications with vessels inside the fog bank ceased entirely. 16:31 hours. Mrs. Chun from the Harborview Apartments called to report that her radio was picking up what sounded like voices speaking in different languages, but she couldn't identify the languages. She's lived in Crescent Bay for 30 years, worked as a translator for the county courthouse before retirement. If she can't identify a language, it's either heavily distorted or something unusual. I dispatched Officer Martinez to check on Mrs. Chun. Standard protocol for elderly residents reporting unusual phenomena during weather events. Often it's just cabin fever or anxiety, but we investigate every call. 16:39 hours. Officer Martinez reported that Mrs. Chen's radio was indeed picking up unidentified transmissions. He recorded a sample on his phone. I've attached the audio file to this log. The voices are unclear, but there's a rhythmic quality to the speech that doesn't match any natural language pattern I'm familiar with. Could be interference from maritime radio frequencies, but the timing coincidence bothers me. 16:47 hours. Fog bank lifted as suddenly as it had arrived. Complete visibility restoration in under 3 minutes. I've never seen fog dissipate that quickly without wind shear or dramatic temperature changes. The weather conditions remained stable throughout the event. It was as if someone had switched off a machine. Total duration, 47 minutes. Harbor operations resumed normal activity. The fishing vessels that returned early reported equipment malfunctions. Navigation systems, fish finders, and radio equipment all experienced simultaneous failures while inside the fog bank. Equipment functioned normally once they cleared the fog boundary. Post-event observations. Fog timing precision unusual for natural weather phenomenon. Geometric formation inconsistent with typical maritime fog patterns. Electronic interference limited to fog-covered areas. Unidentified radio transmissions during event. Maritime equipment failures within fog boundary. Rapid, uniform dissipation unlike natural fog behavior. Administrative notes. Filing incident report with National Weather Service for meteorological review. Recommending equipment check for harbor patrol vessels that experienced malfunctions. Scheduling follow-up with Mrs. Chun regarding ongoing radio anomalies. Personal note. My grandfather worked emergency services in this county for 40 years before me. He used to tell stories about the old-timers who talked about harbinger fogs that came with unnatural precision. Always dismissed it as maritime superstition. Coastal communities develop folklore around weather patterns. It's natural for people to create stories about phenomena they can't explain, but precision bothers me. In emergency management, precision usually indicates human intervention or systemic failure. Natural events are chaotic. When nature behaves with mechanical precision, it suggests something else is at work. Action items. Monitor weather advisories for tomorrow's forecast. Review equipment malfunction reports from affected vessels. Coordinate with weather service for pattern analysis. Maintain heightened readiness for similar events. Log entry ends. Follow-up entry, October 16, 2024, 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Lisera called first thing this morning. Weather Service satellite data shows another fog bank forming offshore, approaching from the same southwest vector as yesterday. Predicted arrival time, 1600 hours. Exactly 1600 hours. She's never seen 2 consecutive days with identical meteorological timing. The probability of natural weather patterns repeating with that precision is essentially 0. I'm implementing enhanced monitoring protocols and requesting additional personnel for observation duty. If this fog arrives at exactly 4 o'clock again, we're dealing with something that requires investigation beyond standard weather advisories. Entry ends. Audio transcript, unidentified transmissions. Recorded by Officer Martinez, October 15, 2024, 16:35 hours. Location, Harborview Apartments, Unit 3B. Static interference. Voices unclear but rhythmic. Voice 1, low, male. Boundary holds for the prescribed duration. Voice 2, higher pitch, indeterminate. The pattern must be maintained until. Heavy static. Voice 3, female, distant. They're beginning to notice the precision. Voice 1, adjustment unnecessary. The schedule serves its purpose. Transmission ends. Note: audio quality insufficient for linguistic analysis. Voices may be interference from maritime or aviation radio frequencies. However, the clarity of English phrases within otherwise incomprehensible transmissions suggests possible coded communication rather than random interference. Analysis pending. Emergency Coordination Log, Cascadia Regional Emergency Management. Incident Classification, Weather Anomaly Maritime. Reporting Officer, Varick Ash, Emergency Coordinator Level 3. Date Range, October 15th to 17th, 2024. Timestamps, multiple entries. Day 2, October 15th, 2024, 15:47 Pacific Standard Time. Second consecutive day of precision fog event. Arrival time, 16 hours exactly. Duration, 47 minutes, 12 seconds. Temperature drop, 12.3 degrees Fahrenheit during event window. Lease era called from the Weather Service at 15:30. Voice tight, professional mask slipping. Varick, I've run the atmospheric models 6 times. This fog shouldn't exist. Pressure differentials are wrong, humidity gradients don't match, and the temperature inversion is... She paused, static crackling through the radio. It's geometrically perfect. Nature doesn't do geometric perfection. I've worked with Lysera for 3 years. She doesn't rattle easily. When Hurricane Delilah pushed Category 4 winds through our sector last year, she maintained clinical detachment while coordinating evacuations through 12-foot storm surge. Hearing uncertainty in her voice feels like watching a compass needle spin wildly. Something fundamental has shifted. The fog arrived as predicted, not as forecast, predicted. I stood on the Emergency Operations Center roof, stopwatch in hand, watching the horizon. At 15 hours 59 minutes and 45 seconds, a gray wall materialized on the water, perfect as a drawn line across my vision. No gradual formation, no natural wisps preceding the main body. One moment clear ocean, the next moment a wall of gray advancing at exactly, I timed it, 11.7 miles per hour. The geometric precision Lysera mentioned became viscerally apparent. The fog's leading edge cut straight across the harbor, perpendicular to the shoreline with machined accuracy. Natural fog follows pressure differentials, wraps around obstacles, flows like liquid. This moved like a sliding door. Electronics began their hiccup routine at exactly 1600 hours. Radio static increased from normal 2% interference to 15% during fog duration. Cell tower at Beacon Point reported 300% increase in dropped calls. Harbor traffic control had to switch to backup frequencies twice. New detail worth documenting. Mrs. Chun from Harborview Apartments called dispatch at 16:23. 78 years old, sharp as winter wind, lived here her entire life. "Young man," she told Officer Martinez, "I've seen every fog this coast can throw at a person. This one's different. It's listening." Martinez laughed, noted elderly confusion in his report. But Mrs. Chun helped her daughter navigate the trawler fleet through the 2019 visibility crisis using only memory and intuition. Her weather sense has saved more boats than our radar system. "I'm scheduling an interview." Notable: Harbor Patrol boat Resilient returned early from routine patrol. Captain Mercer reported equipment malfunction, but all diagnostics show green. Crew seemed unusually quiet during debriefing. Action items: request detailed atmospheric analysis from National Weather Service Portland. Interview Mrs. Chun regarding listening observation. Follow up with Harbor Patrol on early return. Day 3, October 16th, 2024, 14:22 Pacific Standard Time. Pattern confirmed. Fog arrival, 16 hours. Duration, 47 minutes, 12 seconds. Temperature drop, 12.3 degrees. Electronics interference, 15% increase. Precision unchanged. This level of consistency violates every meteorological principle I learned in emergency management training. Weather patterns have variance. Always. Storm tracks shift, pressure systems fluctuate, temperature gradients respond to dozens of variables. This fog operates like clockwork. Interviewed Mrs. Chun this morning. Her apartment overlooks the harbor, 8th floor, unobstructed view of the fog's approach. She served green tea in delicate porcelain cups, hands steady despite her age. Coordinator Ash, I've lived through the 1962 Columbus Day storm, the 1996 floods, the 2008 ice storm that left us without power for 11 days. Weather has personality. Angry storms, gentle rains, confused spring snow that doesn't know if it wants to be winter or spring. This fog. She paused, looking toward the harbor. This fog has purpose. I asked her to explain what she meant by listening. You know how you can feel someone watching you? How a room feels different when someone enters, even if you don't see them. This fog feels like that, like it's taking notes. Mrs. Chun walked to her window, pointed toward the harbor. Yesterday, during the fog, I saw lights in places where there shouldn't be lights. Not boat lights, building lights. Shaped like windows, but not from any buildings I recognize. I followed her gaze. Clear afternoon, fishing boats heading out for evening runs, normal harbor activity. What kind of buildings, Mrs. Chun? Old ones. Victorian architecture, maybe earlier. 3-story structures with steep roof lines and narrow windows. But Coordinator Ash, we tore down the last Victorian buildings on Harbor Street in 1987. I watched them demolish the Merchants Hotel myself. I spent 30 minutes reviewing her account. Mrs. Chen's description was precise, detailed, geographically specific. She described seeing the phantom buildings in the exact location where the Merchants Hotel once stood. Visible only during fog events, lit from within by warm yellow light that seemed to flicker like gas flames rather than electric bulbs. One more thing, Coordinator Ash. The lights had people in them. Silhouettes moving past the windows, going about their business like any evening. But she set down her teacup with careful precision. Some of those silhouettes were wearing clothing from different time periods. Long skirts and high collars, men in bowler hats, children in knickers. New information sources called Kalina Wolf at the Marine Research Station. Dr. Wolf monitors sea life patterns for the Coastal Ecosystem Project. Her data shows unusual behavior beginning October 13th, one day before our first fog event. Marine life has predictable daily patterns, Dr. Wolf explained.
Fading ciclas, territorial bajavios, migratiun rotas.
But starting 3 days ago, we're seeing mass exodus patterns. Every afternoon between 1530 and 1600 hours, marine life flees the harbor area. I asked for specifics: seals abandoning haul-out sites, pelican flocks relocating to inland roosts, even bottom-dwelling species like Dungeness crab moving to deeper water. This behavior typically indicates approaching predators or environmental toxicity, but our water quality sensors show normal readings. Dr. Wolf's research station has underwater cameras positioned throughout the harbor. Coordinator Ash, I can show you footage from yesterday afternoon. At 15:57, every fish visible on camera suddenly swam east. Not gradually, simultaneously, like someone rang a dinner bell only they could hear. The marine exodus timing correlates exactly with fog arrival patterns. Something in the water or above the water triggers flight responses in creatures evolved to detect threats humans can't perceive. Additional anomalies. Officer Martinez reported increased disorientation calls during fog events. Citizens experiencing confusion about time, location, direction. Yesterday's fog produced 12 such calls. Typical fog events generate 1 or 2. Most interesting case. Robert Hendricks, 34, construction foreman, called 911 at 16:31 reporting that he couldn't find his truck in the city center parking lot. When fog cleared at 16:47, his truck was exactly where he'd parked it. But Hendricks insisted the parking lot looked completely different during fog, different layout, different buildings surrounding it, different parking spaces. I've used that lot every workday for 8 years, Hendricks told Dispatch. "I know it like my own bedroom, but during that fog, nothing was where it should be." Hendricks described seeing a small wooden building where the insurance office should be and horse hitching posts instead of parking meters. When fog lifted, normal cityscape returned. Pattern emerging. Civilians reporting architectural anomalies visible only during fog events. Buildings from earlier time periods appearing in locations where modern structures should be. Weather Service update. Lasara's afternoon report contained information not included in official channels. Atmospheric pressure readings during fog events show impossible stability. No variation whatsoever across the 47-minute duration. Varick, it's like the atmosphere is being held in place by external force. Natural pressure systems fluctuate constantly, responding to temperature changes, wind patterns, atmospheric mixing. This fog maintains identical pressure readings down to the hundredth of a millibar. Temperature data equally anomalous. The 12.3-degree drop occurs uniformly across the entire fog area, harbor, downtown, residential districts, industrial zone. Natural temperature changes create gradients, variations based on surface materials, elevation differences, proximity to water. This temperature drop is spatially uniform, as if the entire area exists under controlled conditions. Coordinator Ash, "I need to tell you something off the record." Lasara's voice dropped to near whisper over radio. "I've been researching historical weather data. This same fog pattern appears in Weather Service archives from 1969, 1924, and 1879. Identical timing, identical duration, identical temperature effects. Always lasting 1 week, always in mid-October, always every 55 years. 55-year cycle. If Lasara's historical research is accurate, we're experiencing the 4th documented occurrence of this phenomenon in our region's recorded history. Day 4, October 17th, 2024, 16:52 Pacific Standard Time. Fog event completed. Arrival, 16 hours. Duration, 47 minutes, 12 seconds. All parameters identical to previous days. Major development. I observed the phantom architecture myself. Positioned myself on Harbor Street at 15:55. Video camera ready, binoculars prepared. As fog engulfed the street, visibility dropped to approximately 15 feet. Standard procedure in fog this dense: remain stationary, avoid travel, wait for clearing. But at 16:18, approximately 18 minutes into the fog event, I saw lights. Warm, flickering illumination approximately 200 yards north, where the Safeway parking lot should be located. Not electric light, gas flame quality, yellow-orange spectrum, irregular intensity suggesting flame sources rather than bulb filaments. The lights had rectangular shape, consistent with window frames. I moved carefully toward the light source using building walls for navigation reference. The closer I approached, the more detailed the structures became. Victorian-era architecture, exactly as Mrs. Chun described. 3-story buildings with steep roof lines, narrow windows, decorative woodwork visible in silhouette. Most significantly, the buildings appeared completely solid, 3-dimensional, architecturally sound. Not hallucinations or optical illusions, but physical structures occupying space. I reached the building's front entrance. Heavy wooden door with brass hardware, painted dark green with small decorative glass panels. I touched the door. Solid wood, temperature slightly warm, texture consistent with painted lumber. The brass doorknob turned under my hand. I did not enter. Through the glass panels, I observed interior spaces lit by gas fixtures mounted on wallpapered walls. Figures moved past windows on upper floors, human silhouettes engaged in routine activities. One figure, appearing to be a woman wearing a long dress and fitted jacket consistent with 1890s fashion, paused at a second-floor window and looked directly at me. We made eye contact for approximately 10 seconds. She raised her hand in what appeared to be a greeting gesture. At 16:47, the fog lifted with the same geometric precision as previous days. The Victorian buildings vanished instantly, revealing the familiar Safeway parking lot. No transition period, no gradual fading. One moment I stood before a 19th century structure. The next moment I faced modern asphalt and fluorescent lighting. Critical observation. During the fog event, the Safeway building and parking lot were not visible. The Victorian structures didn't overlay the modern buildings. They replaced them entirely. Immediate actions required. Coordinate with Harbor Patrol for boat-based observation of fog perimeter. Request consultation with historical architecture expert. Establish multi-point observation network for tomorrow's fog event. Contact City Planning Department for historical building records. Personal note. The woman in the window appeared completely normal, engaged in routine domestic activity. She showed no surprise at seeing me, no indication that my presence was unusual or unwelcome. Her greeting gesture suggested recognition, as if my appearance was expected. Question requiring investigation. Are we observing historical events? Or are historical individuals observing us? Radio check, 17:15 Pacific Standard Time. Attempted contact with Weather Service. Lasara's radio silent. Will attempt landline contact tomorrow morning. End day 4 documentation. Emergency coordinator assessment. Pattern established over 3 consecutive days. Phenomenon extends beyond meteorological anomaly, involving temporal or dimensional displacement of physical structures and human occupants. Civilian safety potentially at risk if fog events continue escalating. Recommend elevation to Regional Emergency Management Authority. Requesting consultation with marine biology expert Dr. Wolf, historical research specialist, architectural documentation expert, weather service regional supervisor. Next fog event predicted. Tomorrow, October 18th, 2024, 16 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Personal note. I've been emergency coordinator for 8 years. I've managed hurricane responses, earthquake aftermath, wildfire evacuations, flooding emergencies. I understand crisis patterns, human behavior under stress, natural disaster progression. This situation doesn't fit any established emergency category. The woman in the window was real. The building was real. The fog doesn't just hide things, it changes what exists. Tomorrow I'm going inside. End entry Varick Ash, Emergency Coordinator. Next scheduled update. Day 5, October 18th, 2024. Emergency Coordination Log Varick Ash, Emergency Management Director. Case File, Anomalous Weather Pattern Investigation. Days 5 to 7 post-initial event. Classification, Unofficial Investigation, Personal Documentation. Day 5 to 14:30 hours. Protocol deviation noted. Initiating civilian interview outside standard weather advisory scope. Justification. Recurring precision anomaly requires data collection beyond meteorological parameters. Subject. Margaret Chun, 67, retired librarian. Residence. Ocean View Apartments, Unit 12B, direct fog exposure during Event 4. Interview summary. I've lived here 32 years, Mr. Ash. I know fog. This isn't fog. Subject exhibited coherent recall, no signs of disorientation or fabrication. Described observing a whole different street inside the fog bank during yesterday's 4 p.m. event. Specifically mentioned Victorian houses with gas lamps, where Harbor View condominiums should be visible. Most concerning detail. Subject claims to have seen people in period clothing walking along the different street. When asked to clarify, she stated, "They looked right at me." One woman waved. She was wearing a dress from maybe the 1940s. Cross-reference note. Ocean View Apartments constructed 1987. No historical Victorian district in that location per city planning records. Action item. Schedule follow-up interviews with other Ocean View residents. Request Darren Vale pull historical building records for Harbor View area. Day 5 to 16:45 hours. Contact established with Dr. Kaylina Wolf, Marine Biology Research Station. Initial consultation regarding unusual marine life reports correlating with fog events. Dr. Wolf's data presents significant behavioral anomalies. Harbor seal population abandoning traditional haul-out sites daily at 15:45 hours. Seabird flight patterns showing avoidance behavior starting 15:30 hours. Crab and mollusk activity ceasing 30 minutes prior to fog arrival. Deepwater fish species appearing in shallow harbor areas during fog events. It's like they're fleeing something, Dr. Wolf stated, or being called by something. When asked about marine life response to standard weather patterns, Dr. Wolf confirmed, animals don't respond to regular fog this way. They certainly don't respond with this kind of temporal precision. Research request. Dr. Wolf agreed to provide daily marine behavior monitoring data, installing motion-activated cameras at 3 harbor locations to document animal exodus patterns. Day 6 to 9:15 hours. Meeting with City Planning Director Darren Vale regarding historical record search. Results exceeded expectations and raised additional concerns. Historical fog event documentation. Vale located 3 previous periods of unusual fog activity in city archives. 1957 to 1958. Series of newspaper articles describing clockwork fog appearing daily at 4 p.m. for exactly 1 year. Event period ended with reported disappearances of 23 citizens during final fog event of the cycle. 1902 to 1903. Harbor Master's logs describing supernatural precision fog interfering with shipping schedules. Period concluded with entire harbor district evacuated due to atmospheric disturbances. Official records sealed, but insurance claims suggest significant property damage. 1847 to 1848. Ship logs and territorial government documents reference the year the sea remembered among local Chinook peoples. Describes daily fog events that showed the old village to European settlers. Records indicate several settlers walked into the memory and were never seen again. Pattern analysis. 55-year intervals between event periods. Each period lasted exactly 1 year. All periods culminated in disappearances or evacuations. Current event cycle began day 1 of our investigation. Vale's assessment. If the pattern holds, we have 360 days until something happens. Personal note. The precision of this cycle disturbs me more than any weather anomaly. Weather doesn't operate on human calendar systems. This suggests intention. Day 6 to 15:30 hours. Pre-fog observation protocol established. Coordinating with Harbor Patrol Chief Elric Mercer for maritime perspective during today's event. Team positioned at Harbor Overlook. Myself, coordination and documentation. Dr. Wolf, marine behavioral observation. Chief Mercer, maritime safety and navigation perspective. Emergency radio contact maintained with Weather Service Liaison Lisa Gale. 15:45 hours. Pre-event observations. Marine life exodus confirmed. Harbor seals abandoning Pier 7 haul-out. Seabirds departing harbor area in organized formation, not typical dispersal pattern. Water temperature dropping 62 degrees Fahrenheit to 50 degrees Fahrenheit in 10 minutes. No atmospheric conditions to explain rapid thermal change. 15:58 hours. Formation phase. Fog bank approaching from due west. Geometric precision of leading edge confirmed. Appears to maintain perfectly straight line across 2-mile front. Chief Mercer observation. In 30 years of harbor patrol, I've never seen fog move like that. It's not following wind patterns or thermal currents. It's just advancing. 16 hours, event commencement. Fog arrival precisely on schedule. Temperature drop to 38 degrees Fahrenheit within fog bank. Electronic equipment beginning to malfunction. GPS units showing impossible coordinates. Radio static increasing. Dr. Wolf's field notes. Fog density uniform throughout. No natural variation in moisture content or visibility. This isn't meteorological. 16:15 hours. Interior observation attempt. Chief Mercer volunteered to enter fog perimeter using safety rope and radio contact. Contact maintained for 12 minutes, then radio silence. 16:27 hours. Lost contact recovery. Mercer emerged from fog bank 15 feet from entry point, appearing disoriented. When asked about 12-minute absence, he reported being inside fog for maybe 2 hours. Mercer's account. There were buildings in there, old buildings, and people. They were going about their daily business like it was normal. I tried to talk to a woman hanging laundry, but she couldn't see me. Or maybe I couldn't see her properly. 16:47 hours. Event conclusion. Fog dissipated exactly on schedule. Temperature returned to normal atmospheric conditions. Electronic equipment resumed normal function. Post-event analysis. Time distortion confirmed. Mercer's account suggests temporal displacement during fog exposure. Architecture descriptions consistent with Margaret Chen's testimony. Day 7 to 8 o'clock hours. Team debrief and planning session. Chief Mercer provided detailed account of interior fog experience. Observed Victorian-era architecture where modern harbor buildings should be. Witnessed people in period clothing performing daily activities. Experienced temporal displacement. Subjective time longer than objective time. Noted that fog world inhabitants seemed unaware of his presence. Dr. Wolf's marine data analysis. Sea life behavior suggests environmental awareness of temporal anomaly. Marine ecosystem responding to threat/opportunity beyond normal sensory range. Deep water species migration patterns indicate large-scale oceanic disturbance. Hypothesis development based on 55-year cycle pattern and interior observations. Working theory. Fog events represent temporal displacement or dimensional overlap. Current reality temporarily displaced by historical period reality. Darren Vale Historical Research Update found indigenous oral history references describing fog events as when the ancestors visit and the sea remembering old shores. Traditional response involved community gatherings to honor the memories, but not direct interaction with fog phenomena. Vale located sealed archival material from 1958 incident. Obtaining access requires federal clearance due to national security classification. Risk assessment. If historical pattern continues, event duration and intensity will increase over coming months. Final event of each cycle has resulted in permanent disappearances or major property damage. Current civilian exposure levels manageable, but public awareness increasing. Media inquiries beginning. Protocol decision. Standard weather advisory procedures inadequate for supernatural phenomena. Initiating unofficial investigation team. Varick Ash. Coordination and emergency management. Dr. Kaylina Wolf. Scientific analysis and monitoring. Chief Elric Mercer. Maritime safety and reconnaissance. Darren Vale. Historical research and records access. Lise Era Gale. Meteorological support and external communication. Personal note, I became emergency coordinator to protect this community from disasters. I've handled hurricanes, earthquakes, chemical spills, and terrorist threats, but I've never had to protect people from history itself. Day 7 to 15:45 hours. Final pre-event protocol check. Equipment prepared for tomorrow's direct investigation. Safety ropes and harnesses for fog entry. Radio equipment with backup frequencies. Camera gear for documentation. Environmental monitoring devices. Emergency medical supplies. Team assignments confirmed. Mercer and I will enter fog using rope tether system. Dr. Wolf will monitor environmental conditions from safety perimeter. Darren will coordinate with city services for perimeter security. Lise Era will maintain external communication from weather station. Risk acknowledgement. Previous cycle patterns suggest increasing danger over time. Historical records indicate people who disappeared during fog events were never recovered. However, understanding the phenomenon may be key to preventing larger-scale disaster. If pattern holds, we have 358 days to find a solution. Every day we delay investigation increases risk to community. Personal risk assessment. As emergency coordinator, I have responsibility to protect 47,000 residents. That responsibility outweighs personal safety concerns. If this log stops updating after tomorrow's event, implement Protocol 7. citywide evacuation and federal emergency response activation. 1600 hours. Day 7 event observation. Fog duration extended to 52 minutes. 5-minute increase over previous events. Geometric precision maintained, but fog bank now extends 200 yards further inland. Pattern acceleration confirmed. Investigation timeline may be shorter than estimated. Final entry day 7. Tomorrow we discover what exists inside the fog. I spent my career preparing for emergencies. I never imagined the emergency would be discovering that the past isn't past. If you're reading this and the investigation team doesn't return, remember, the fog isn't weather. It's memory. And something about our timeline is making old memories become real. Weather Service, Harbor Patrol, and city planning have all relevant data. Trust Dr. Wolf's scientific analysis. Trust Chief Mercer's maritime experience. Trust Darren's historical research. Don't trust the fog. End log entry. Next update, post-investigation report. Emergency protocol status. Yellow, elevated risk. Emergency coordinator log, day 8. Personnel, V. Ash, lead. K. Wolf, scientific. E. Mercer, maritime. Time, 15:45 to 16:55 Pacific Standard Time. Classification, unprecedented phenomena investigation. 15:45 hours. Final equipment check complete. 3-person entry team assembled per Protocol 7 authorization. Rope tether system deployed. 200 feet of marine-grade line per person. Anchored to Harbor Patrol vessel Steadfast. Radio check confirms clear channels on emergency frequencies. Kalina's preliminary readings show electromagnetic anomalies intensifying as we approach 1600 hours. Her handheld spectrometer is detecting crystalline particulates in the air that shouldn't exist in normal fog formation. This isn't water vapor, she keeps saying. The molecular structure is impossible. Elric has positioned the boat at optimal distance, close enough for rope security, far enough to avoid whatever happens when the fog arrives. Current atmospheric pressure, 29.92 and holding steady. Temperature, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity, 73%. Standing by, 15:58 hours. The silence before it happens is wrong. Sea birds have completely vanished. Even the harbor seals disappeared 20 minutes ago. The water is too still, like glass stretched tight. Elric's checking his watch every 10 seconds. Kalina is taking readings she says don't make sense. Her equipment shows the air temperature dropping 2 degrees per minute, but my skin feels nothing. The horizon, Christ, the horizon looks like it's bending. 2 minutes, 16 hours is here. The fog doesn't roll in. It doesn't drift or creep or flow. At exactly 4 o'clock, it simply exists where it wasn't before. A wall of gray-white that rises from the water like a stage curtain dropping upward. Perfectly geometric. Perfectly impossible. Kalina's spectrometer is screaming alerts. Varric, these readings? The air inside that fog bank isn't air. It's something else entirely. Radio check with base. Harbor control, Ash team, radio check, static. Then Lasara's voice, distant, copy Ash team. You're breaking up already and you haven't even moved. The fog wall is maybe 50 feet away. I can see my reflection in it, like looking into gray glass. But the reflection is wrong. I'm wearing clothes I put on yesterday, not today. Team, prepare for entry. Rope check, 3 tugs from each line. Secure. Entering anomalous weather phenomenon at 16:02 hours, 16:05 hours. Transmission degraded. Audio transcription. Inside the fog is, God help me, I don't have words for this in any emergency manual. It's not fog. It's not weather. It's a place. The ground beneath my feet is solid, but it's not water. Cobblestones. Actual Victorian-era cobblestones like the ones downtown. But these are perfect, like they were laid yesterday. Street lamps that burn with gas flames even though our city converted to electric in 1923. Kalina's readings have gone completely haywire. Her spectrometer shows we're breathing normal air now, but the atmospheric composition includes elements that don't exist on the periodic table. Varric, she whispers. My GPS shows our coordinates as the middle of the harbor, but we're standing on a street. The fog surrounds us, but it's not weather fog. It's more like walls made of gray light. I can see shapes moving inside it. Buildings, people, base. This is Ash Team. Do you copy? Nothing but static. Elric tugs his rope. Still connected to the boat, but when I look back the way we came, there's no harbor. Just more cobblestone street disappearing into the gray walls. Team, maintain formation. Document everything. 16-12 hours. Manual transcription. Radio contact lost. The street we're on connects to other streets. An entire district exists inside this fog bank. Architecturally impossible, but undeniably real. Victorian houses next to Art Deco apartments next to buildings I don't recognize. Styles that haven't been invented yet. People live here. I saw her first elderly woman sweeping her front steps, wearing a dress from the 1940s. She looked up at us and smiled, waved like we were neighbors. Good afternoon, she called. Welcome to the 4 o'clock district. Kalina approached her with scientific caution. Excuse me, ma'am, but how long have you lived here? Oh, since the fog took me, dear. 1943, I think it was, or maybe yesterday. Time works differently here during the day. Elric checked his watch. It's running backward. The woman continued, You're the new emergency people, aren't you? We've been expecting you. Every 55 years, someone new joins us. You're right on schedule. My professional training is screaming that this is impossible, but my eyes and ears tell me it's real. I've documented plane crashes, building collapses, chemical spills, disasters that make sense even when they're terrible. This doesn't make sense, but it's more real than anything I've experienced. Ma'am, I'm Emergency Coordinator Varric Ash. We're investigating the fog phenomena. Can you tell me how many people live here? Oh, hundreds, dear. Everyone who's walked into the fog over the years. We're all here, 1847, 1902, 1957, and now 2012. Every cycle brings new neighbors, 55-year cycles, just like Darren's research indicated. Ma'am, is there a way out? She looked confused. Out? Why would you want to leave? It's lovely here. And besides, in 3 more days, this will be the real world and your old place will be the fog. 16-25 hours. We've been walking these streets for. My watch says 13 minutes, but it feels like hours. Every building tells a story from a different decade. A barber shop with prices from 1902. A diner advertising victory bonds in the window. Electronic store selling devices I don't recognize. The people are from different eras, but they all seem to know each other. They wave at us like we belong here. Children playing in the streets, children from different centuries, but they're playing together like time doesn't matter. Kalina is taking notes faster than I've ever seen. Varric, this is the most important scientific discovery in human history. We're documenting evidence of what? Dimensional overlap? Time displacement? Parallel reality. Elric is the practical one. We need to find the edge of this place. Our ropes are still connected to something, which means there's still a way back. But when we follow our ropes, they lead deeper into the district, not back to the harbor. A man in a 1950s suit approaches us. You folks look lost. First day in the 4 o'clock. Sir, I'm with emergency services. We're investigating the fog phenomenon. Can you explain what this place is? It's home, he says simply. Was a sailor back in 57. Walked into the fog during a storm, ended up here. Been here ever since. Name's Tommy Chin. You'll like it once you settle in. Mr. Chun, we need to return to our world. People are depending on us. He looks sad. Your world's going away, friend. Happens every 55 years. The fog world becomes the real world, and the real world becomes the fog. It's almost time for the switch. My radio crackles suddenly. Varric! Varric! Can you hear me? Lasara's voice, faint and distorted. Base, this is Ash Team, we copy. Thank God. You've been silent for 40 minutes. The fog is expanding. It's covering downtown. 40 minutes? We've only been inside for 23 minutes. Base, we've made contact with residents. The fog contains a populated area. Repeat, there are people living inside the fog phenomenon. Long silence. Then, Varric, that's impossible. Base, I'm documenting everything. The residents claim this location will replace our reality in 3 days. Request immediate consultation with city planning regarding evacuation protocols. Varric, Darren Vale went into the fog 20 minutes ago. We can't reach him. 16:43 hours. We found Darren. He's sitting at a cafe table on a street corner that shouldn't exist, drinking coffee with a woman in 1920s clothing and a man wearing what looks like medieval robes. When he sees us, he stands and waves like he's been expecting us. Varric, perfect timing. I've been waiting for you. Darren, what the hell are you doing? You've been missing for less than an hour. An hour? He laughs. I've been here for 3 days, or 3 years. Time is flexible here during the transition period. Kaylina immediately starts examining him. Pulse normal, pupils responsive, no signs of disorientation or drug influence. But Darren, you've only been missing for 47 minutes. I know this is hard to understand, Darren says, but I came here intentionally. The city archives don't just contain records of the 55-year cycle, they contain instructions left by the survivors of previous cycles. He pulls out a leather journal I've never seen before. Each cycle, someone from city administration is chosen to enter early and prepare the transition. I'm the 2012 representative. What transition? In 3 days at exactly 4 o'clock, the fog world and the real world switch places. Everything here becomes permanent reality. Everything out there becomes the fog. The people who adapt join the new reality. The people who fight it become part of the fog bank. My radio crackles again. All units, fog bank is covering City Hall. Repeat, downtown evacuation in progress. Darren nods sadly. It's starting early this cycle. The realities are becoming unstable. We need to get to the lighthouse. What lighthouse? The one that controls the switch. It exists in both realities simultaneously. That's where the decision gets made, which world stays real. Elric checks his rope. Still taut, still connected to something. Team, we need extraction immediately. Elric, Darren says gently. Your boat is probably inside the fog now too. The boundaries are dissolving. As if summoned by his words, we hear Lysara's voice from everywhere at once. Varric, I can see you. I can see all of you. We look up. Above us, beyond the gray walls of the fog district, Lysara's face appears like a projection against the sky. She's in the weather station, but she's looking down at us like we're in a snow globe. Lysara, can you hear us? You're all translucent. The whole fog area is becoming see-through from out here. And Varric, there are hundreds of people walking around in there. The gray walls around us are indeed becoming transparent. Through them, I can see our real city, but it looks faded like an old photograph. People are walking through the streets, but they move like ghosts, translucent and silent. Base, document everything you're seeing. We're going to investigate this lighthouse. Varric, be careful. The fog is still expanding. Half the city is inside it now. Darren leads us down a street that definitely wasn't in our city's original layout. At the end of it stands a lighthouse that's simultaneously the most solid thing I've ever seen and completely impossible. It extends infinitely upward into the gray sky, and its light beacon rotates in patterns that hurt to look at directly. That's where we make the choice, Darren says. Every 55 years, the lighthouse keeper asks the same question. Which reality deserves to continue? And what's the answer? That's what we're here to figure out. End of log entry. Status. Investigation continuing. Personnel. All team members accounted for. 1 civilian contact established. Threat level. Unprecedented. Reality displacement event in progress. Next action. Proceed to lighthouse for contact with controlling entity. Personal note. If anyone reads this and we don't make it back, implement full city evacuation immediately. The fog isn't weather, it's a choice between worlds. And the choice has to be made in 18 hours. Emergency coordination log. Entry 47. Coordinator Varric Esh. Date. Timestamp error. Multiple values detected. Time. Chronometer malfunction. Displaying 4:23 p.m., 11:47 a.m., 6:15 p.m. simultaneously. Location. Unknown sector. Fog boundary zone. Status. Critical. Temporal displacement confirmed. I don't know what day it is anymore. The fog has been around us for what feels like hours, but my watch keeps jumping between times that don't make sense. Elric's maritime chronometer shows we've been inside for 14 minutes. Kalina's field recorder timestamp says 3 hours and 47 minutes. My emergency tablet displays negative time elapsed. We found Darren. He's sitting in what used to be the harbor master's office, except the building is somehow constructed from 1920s brick with 1980s windows and a roof that looks like it was thatched in the 1800s. The architecture here doesn't follow any rules I understand. Streets curve upward into the fog, and I swear I've seen the same intersection from 3 different angles that can't possibly exist in the same space. Varric, Darren said when we found him, like he'd been expecting us. You made good time. How long were you planning to stay? We came in yesterday, Darren. We've been looking for you. He laughed, but it sounded hollow. Yesterday? I've been here since Tuesday. Which Tuesday? I'm not entirely sure anymore, but it's been. He paused, counting on his fingers with the intensity of someone trying to solve a complex equation. Months, maybe years. Time moves differently in different districts. Kalina immediately started taking readings with her equipment. Varric, the atmospheric composition here isn't fog. It's not water vapor at all. These are crystalline structures suspended in an electromagnetic field. They're refracting time itself. I should have dismissed that as impossible. A week ago, I would have. Now I just added it to my growing list of things that emergency management protocols never covered. Darren, we need to get you out of here. The fog's been expanding. It's already reached 3rd Street, and if it keeps growing, it's not growing, he interrupted. It's becoming more real. This place, this city, it's been here all along, just translucent. Every day at 4 o'clock, it gets a little more solid. A little more here. Through the office window, I could see people walking the streets. Men in suspenders and bowler hats passed women in 1950s dresses, who nodded politely to teenagers in clothing I didn't recognize but somehow knew was from decades I hadn't lived through yet. They all moved with purpose, like they belonged here. Who are they? Elric asked, his voice tight with the kind of control that comes from years of maritime emergencies. The residents, Darren said. People who walked into the fog during previous cycles. 1847, 1902, 1957, 2012. They're all here. All still here. My radio crackled. Lasara's voice came through distorted, like she was speaking through water. Varric? Can you hear me? The real city is strange. Buildings are transparent. People walking through like ghosts. I keyed the radio. Sarah, we're here. We found Darren. How long have we been inside? Inside? Varric, you've been gone for 2 days. Search and rescue has been. The transmission cut to static. When it cleared, Lasara's voice was different. Younger somehow. Varric? Is that you? Where are you? The fog just appeared and I can't find anyone. Sarah, what's your status? I'm at the weather station, but it looks different. The equipment is all wrong. It's like someone replaced everything with older models, but they're still working. My grandmother's old barometric instruments are here, the ones that were thrown out decades ago. I looked at Darren. How long have you really been here? That's the thing, he said. leaning back in a chair that was simultaneously modern office furniture and a Victorian wooden seat. Time isn't linear here. I've been here for 3 months, but I've also been here for 3 hours, and I've also been here for 3 years. I remember conversations we had yesterday about things that won't happen until next week. I remember your childhood, Varric, even though I didn't know you then. Kalina's equipment started beeping rapidly. Temporal displacement is accelerating. The fog city is becoming more temporally dense while our reality is becoming more sparse. What does that mean in English? Elric demanded. It means, Darren said, that this place is becoming the real world, and the world we came from is becoming the fog. I felt my emergency coordinator training kick in, the protocols that had guided me through hurricanes and earthquakes and grid failures. Assess, prioritize. But all my assessment tools were useless when the fundamental nature of reality was shifting. There's something else, Darren continued. The people here, the residents, they're not trapped. They chose to stay. Every 55 years, when the fog comes, people can choose. Stay in the world that's fading, or step into the world that's becoming real. But the missing persons reports weren't missing. They were transitioning. And now it's happening again. But this time, he gestured toward the window, where the fog city streets were becoming clearer, more solid. This time might be the last time. The final transition. The radio crackled again. Lysara's voice. Varric, I can see you. I can see all of you. You're standing in the middle of Harbor Street, but there's no building there. You're just standing in empty air, but you're also inside something I can't see. I looked around the office we were standing in. Through the windows, I could see our world, the real world, like a faint overlay. Cars passing through the space we occupied, their drivers unaware that they were driving through a building that existed in a different layer of time. We need to get back, I said. Do we? Darren asked. Look around, Varric. Really look. The streets are clean. The buildings are maintained. The people are healthy, happy. They have all the knowledge of their original time plus everything they've learned here. It's not a prison. It's an evolution. Kalina's voice was tight with scientific fascination and growing dread. If the temporal displacement continues at this rate, our reality will become completely insubstantial within, I can't calculate it. Time isn't behaving mathematically. How do we stop it? Elric asked. Maybe we don't, Darren said. Maybe we guide it. Help it happen safely. That's not our choice to make, I said. We're emergency coordinators, not gods, aren't we? He stood, and for a moment I saw him as he was in our world. Rumpled city planner in his 50s, and as he was becoming here, confident, ageless, part of something larger. We're the ones who walked into the fog. We're the ones who have to choose. The radio crackled one more time. Lysara's voice, but older now, weathered. Varric, I'm coming in. I'm not losing you to this thing. Whatever's happening, we face it together. Through the window, I could see a figure walking toward the fog boundary. Even distorted by the temporal displacement, I recognized Lysara's determined stride. She's making the choice, Darren said. Just like we all have to. I looked at my team. Elric checking his maritime compass that spun wildly in all directions. Kalina documenting impossible readings. Darren, who had already half-transitioned to this new reality. And somewhere in the fog boundary, Lysara was walking toward us, toward a choice none of us fully understood. My emergency protocols had no procedure for this, but my instincts, trained through years of crisis management, told me we were approaching the critical decision point. Not just for us, but for everyone. Darren, I said, who's in charge here? Who decides how this transition happens? He smiled, and it was the first genuinely happy expression I'd seen from him in months. We do. The people who walked into the fog when it mattered most. The people who chose to be here when the choice had to be made. Then we need to find whoever's been managing this process for the last 178 years, I said. Because if this is really happening, if our world is really becoming the fog world, then we need to make sure it happens right. That's the spirit, Darren said. The lighthouse keeper has been waiting to meet you. He's been managing the transition cycles since 1847. He's got quite a story to tell. Through the Fog City streets, I could see a light pulsing in the distance. Not electric, not fire, but something that felt ancient and patient and absolutely certain. My radio crackled one last time. Lasara's voice, clear and close. Varric, I'm here. I'm in the fog. Where are you? We're coming to get you, I said. And then we're going to figure out how to manage the biggest emergency response in human history. Emergency Coordinator notes, temporal displacement confirmed and accelerating. Reality merger process appears to be natural cycle, not disaster. Team integrity maintained but under severe stress. Critical decision point approaching. New protocols required for unprecedented scenario. Lighthouse investigation required for full understanding. Status: critical paradigm shift in progress. Next action: locate lighthouse keeper, establish communication with all team members, develop emergency response plan for reality transition. Personal note: I became an emergency coordinator to help people through disasters. I never imagined I'd be coordinating the biggest change in human reality. But that's what we're trained for. The unthinkable moment when everything changes and someone has to make the call. Emergency Coordination Log Varric Ash. Date: Day 9. Temporal markers unreliable. Status: Code Black Reality Displacement. Location: Fog City Central District / Lighthouse Approach. Entry 6.1 0800 hours. Subjective time. The watches stopped working sometime during what I think was night. Elric's maritime chronometer shows 3:17 a.m., but the Fog City's gas lamps suggest midday. Kalina's digital display flickers between dates spanning 3 decades. We're using meal times and sleep cycles to mark progression now. Team split this morning. Had to make the call. Elric and Kalina are taking the harbor route back toward the fog boundary. Kalina's collected enough crystalline samples to analyze outside, assuming the boundary still exists. Elric knows boats, knows tides, knows how to read water even when it defies physics. If anyone can find us an exit, it's them. Darren and I are heading inland to the lighthouse. The structure appears in every district of Fog City, always visible, always the same distance away. Basic geometry says that's impossible. Basic geometry has been filing complaints all week. Radio check 0830 hours. Lasara's voice comes through clearer in the morning Fog City hours. She reports the real city is translucent. People walking through buildings. Cars driving through solid walls. Emergency services getting calls about the city becoming see-through. Varric. Her voice carried that meteorologist precision even through the static. I'm tracking something on the atmospheric sensors. The fog isn't expanding geographically anymore. It's expanding dimensionally. Depth readings that don't make sense. Depth. Into what? Entry 6.2 to 1,100 hours. Subjective. Darren's been here before. Not just yesterday, not just months. Years. Subjective years in Fog City time while hours passed outside. He's been walking these streets, learning the patterns, talking to the residents from 1847, from 1902, from 1957. All the 55-year cycles. I volunteered, he said as we passed a Victorian mansion that definitely wasn't in our city yesterday. Found the archives, found the pattern. Someone from each cycle has to guide the next. Someone who understands both worlds. The mansion's windows showed glimpses of our real city, my apartment building, Lasara's weather station, the harbor where Elric usually patrols. But when I reached for the glass, my hand passed through. The images were memories, not views. What happens to the guides? I asked. Darren pointed to a memorial garden where names were carved in stone that looked like crystallized fog. Dozens of names. Dates spanning 175 years. We fade when our job's done. Return to our original timeline. It's not death exactly. More like. He paused, searching for words in the impossible vocabulary this place demanded. More like going home. Entry 6.3 to 1,300 hours. Met Mrs. Catherine Brennan, missing person from 1902. She runs the Fog City Post Office, delivers letters between districts, between time periods. She's been 28 years old for 123 years. The transition's different this time, she said, handing me a letter addressed to Emergency Coordinator Ash in handwriting I didn't recognize but somehow knew was mine. Previous cycles, the Fog City just borrowed people, took them for the 55 years, let them live in accelerated time, then returned them when the cycle ended. But this time, she gestured toward the lighthouse, now visibly closer than when we started walking toward it this morning. This time it's permanent. The entity that orchestrates the cycles has decided both realities are too fragile alone. The merger will create something stronger. The letter in my hand was written in fog ink on paper that felt like crystallized time. I already knew what it would say before I opened it because I was going to write it or had written it or was writing it in some other timeline's version of this moment. The emergency was never the fog. The emergency was choosing which world gets to be real. Choose integration, not isolation. Choose both, not either. The protocol is trust. VA, Emergency Coordinator, Merged Reality. Radio check 1,330 hours. Static worse now. Caught fragments of Lasar's transmission. Buildings solidifying in fog pattern. People reporting seeing relatives from emergency services can't. Boundaries breaking down. Then, clear as if she were standing next to me. Varric, I'm coming in. The weather station's equipment is reading impossible atmospheric pressure. I need to be there. Negative, I transmitted back. Stay at your post. Monitor the merger. Too late. I'm already walking toward the fog. Entry 6.4 to 1,500 hours. The lighthouse keeper's name is Marcus Webb. He's been tending the beacon since 1847. He's the one who started the cycles, who made the agreement with the entity that governs dimensional boundaries. Coastal cities are vulnerable, he explained as we climbed the spiral stairs. Each step up revealed windows showing different decades of our city's history. Too much water, too much change, too much uncertainty. The Fog City provides stability, continuity, connection to what came before. The lighthouse mechanism is part clockwork, part crystalline structure, part something that doesn't have a name in any language humans speak. It's beautiful and terrible and older than the city built around it. Every 55 years, the boundaries thin. The Fog City becomes visible to the outside world. People can choose to join us or help us integrate with their reality. Webb's hands moved over controls that looked like a ship's wheel crossed with an organ keyboard. This time, the choice is permanent. Merger or separation forever. Below us, through the lighthouse windows, I could see Fog City residents gathering in the central square. Hundreds of people from 6 different time periods, all looking up at the lighthouse beacon, waiting. What do you need from me? I asked. Your authority. As emergency coordinator, you have the legal and moral authority to make decisions for the welfare of the community. The merger requires willing consent from someone who speaks for the outside world. And if I refuse, Webb's expression carried the weight of 178 years. Then Fog City continues its isolation cycles, and your world continues to fade. Both realities become less stable, less real, until neither can sustain human life. Entry 6.5 to 1,530 hours. Lysera found us at the lighthouse. She walked through the fog boundary like stepping through a doorway, carrying her weather equipment and wearing an expression of scientific wonder mixed with terror. The atmospheric readings, she said, setting up her equipment on the lighthouse gallery. The fog isn't weather, Varric. It's time made visible, crystallized duration. The entity Webb talks about, it's not supernatural, it's temporal. A consciousness that exists in the spaces between moments. Kalina's voice crackled through the radio. I've got the analysis. The crystalline structures in the fog are time crystals theoretical physics made manifest. They store temporal energy, allow for localized chronological manipulation. This is Nobel Prize-level discovery, except the world might not exist to give out prizes. Elric's voice joined hers, and I found our exit. It's not spatial, it's temporal. We can leave Fog City, but we'll return to our original timeline. Problem is, our original timeline is becoming unstable. Kalina's right, the physics are breaking down. Entry 6.6 to 1,600 hours. Decision time. Literally, the lighthouse beacon can be activated manually, but it requires conscious choice from representatives of both realities. Webb represents Fog City's accumulated centuries. I represent the outside world's current moment. Lasara's equipment shows both realities oscillating, becoming less stable with each fog cycle. Merge them or lose them both. What about the people? I asked Webb. The ones who don't want to live in a reality where Victorian mansions exist next to modern apartments, where time moves differently in different neighborhoods? They'll adapt. Humans always do. The merged reality will have natural laws, just different ones. More flexible, more forgiving of impossible things. Through the lighthouse beacon, I could see both worlds, Fog City's gaslit streets and our city's electric glow, overlapping, ready to become a single place. Radio check, final transmission. Varric. Elric's voice, calm and certain. Kalina and I found something else. The merger's already happening in other coastal cities. San Francisco reported fog arriving at exact times. Seattle's having similar events. This isn't isolated to us. Global reset, Kalina added. The entity isn't local. It's planetary, maybe larger. We're not just choosing for our city. We're choosing for everyone. Entry 6.7 to 1,630 hours. Darren's starting to fade. His outline becoming translucent, his voice echoing from slightly different moments. My job's almost done, he said. Guided you to the choice point. Now you have to choose. I can tell you this, the previous cycle's guides all chose integration when they had the chance. The entity learns, adapts, becomes more cooperative with each cycle. What happens to you when you fade? I return to my original timeline, to the moment I entered the fog with all the knowledge intact. I get to live my normal life, but I'll remember being here, remember guiding the merger. It's not a sacrifice, it's a completion. The lighthouse beacon pulsed, waiting for activation. Webb's hands rested on the controls. Lasara's equipment showed both realities' stability decreasing by the minute. Time to make the call. Emergency Coordinator Decision Log, 1,645 hours. Protocol, Unprecedented Scenario Management. Authority, Municipal Emergency Response Act, Section 12A. Decision, Approved integration of Fog City temporal reality with current municipal reality. Justification, both realities facing critical instability. Merger represents best survival option for all residents. Implementation, immediate activation of lighthouse beacon with full consent. Personal note, sometimes the emergency is not the disaster. It's the choice we make about what world we want to live in. Activating beacon. If this works, tomorrow there will be no fog scheduled. If it doesn't work, there might not be a tomorrow to schedule. End log. Signal ends, transmission switching to integrated reality frequency. Emergency coordination log, entry number 47. Coordinator Varric Ash. Date, day 10, temporal markers unreliable. Time, timestamp error, multiple readings. Status, critical, reality breach imminent. I don't know what day it is anymore. My watch shows 3 different times simultaneously. Lasara's voice comes through the radio, sometimes from yesterday, sometimes from next week. The lighthouse keeper has been waiting for us at the beacon room, and Darren says he's been expecting our arrival for 178 years. The climb up the lighthouse stairs felt like walking through photographs. Each step, the walls showed different decades: brick from 1847, painted white from 1902, steel reinforcement from 1957, and our modern emergency lighting from this cycle. Our footsteps echoed both ahead and behind us, as if we were following ourselves and being followed by ourselves simultaneously. Kalina stopped on the fourth landing, her scientific equipment registering impossible readings. "Varric," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of terrible understanding. "The electromagnetic signatures here aren't just anomalous. They're showing quantum superposition on a macro scale. This lighthouse exists in all realities at once." The keeper waited for us in the beacon room. Not the automated LED array I expected, but a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with the same rhythm as the fog's appearance. He looked exactly like the daguerreotype from the 1847 city archives, unchanged by 178 years. When he spoke, his voice carried the accent of old maritime communities, but his words held knowledge from every cycle. "Emergency Coordinator Ash," he said, not looking up from the beacon controls. "Your protocols prepared you for many crises, but not for choosing which world gets to exist." Darren stepped forward, and I finally understood his role completely. "He's not from our timeline, Varric. He was sent by the survivors of the 1957 cycle to guide us through this choice. Just like someone from our cycle will guide the next one, if there is a next one." The keeper's hands moved across controls that shouldn't exist, brass fittings connected to fiber optic cables, steam valves integrated with quantum processors. "The cycle can be stopped," he said, "but only through willing sacrifice from each era. One person from each 55-year period must anchor the timeline collapse." Through the beacon room windows, I could see both realities now: the fog city spread below us with its impossible architecture, and beyond it, the translucent outline of our normal world where emergency vehicles moved like ghosts through increasingly ethereal streets. Lasara's weather station looked like a watercolor painting, beautiful and fading. "The entity you've sensed," the keeper continued, "it's not separate from us. It's the collective consciousness of everyone who ever participated in a cycle. Every person who chose to stay, every person who chose to sacrifice, every person who chose to guide others to this moment. We are the entity, and the entity dreams us into existence every 55 years. Kalina's equipment began screaming with readings that broke every known law of physics. She looked at the data, then at us, her face showing the calm of absolute understanding. "If we stop the cycle by force, both realities collapse into quantum foam. But if we complete it through willing integration," she paused, calculating impossibilities, "we create a single, stable timeline that incorporates the wisdom and experience of all previous cycles." That's when Elric's voice crackled through the radio, not from below, but from above us somehow. "Varric, I found her. Lasara's here. She came into the fog to reach us." My heart stopped. Through the beacon room's impossible acoustics, I could hear her voice, calling my name from somewhere in the lighthouse's higher levels that didn't exist when we entered. She had entered the fog from her weather station, walked into the temporal maze to find us. Darren's image began flickering like a television with poor reception. "My role is ending," he said, his voice carrying satisfaction and sadness. "I was sent to guide you to this choice, not to make it with you." The 1957 cycle survivors knew that someone from emergency management would need to understand the weight of community responsibility. The keeper turned to face me directly for the first time. His eyes held depths that spoke of watching reality shift 55 times, of bearing witness to the same choice made over and over. "The beacon requires a willing emergency coordinator to activate the integration protocol. Someone whose professional duty encompasses protecting the entire community, not just the current timeline." Kalina stepped toward the beacon without hesitation. "I'll do it. My research, my understanding of the quantum mechanics involved, it makes sense for me to anchor the scientific transition." "No," I said, understanding flooding through me with perfect clarity. "The emergency isn't the fog. The emergency isn't the reality merger. The emergency is that someone has to choose which future exists. That's why every cycle produces an emergency coordinator. That's why I'm here." As I moved toward the beacon controls, Kalina grabbed my arm. "Varric, if you anchor the integration, you won't survive in any single timeline. You'll exist between realities, watching over the transition but never fully part of any world. Through the radio, Lasara's voice reached us, clear and strong despite impossible circumstances. Varric, I can see the weather patterns from up here. The storm systems are aligning across all timelines. If the integration succeeds, we'll have weather unlike anything that's ever existed, supernatural and natural forces working together instead of fighting. I looked at the beacon controls, then at my team Kalina with her scientific instruments, Elric's voice over the radio, Darren fading as his mission completed, and Lysera somewhere above us in a lighthouse level that existed only during temporal convergence. The Keeper stepped aside, his ancient duty passing to me. The choice belongs to the emergency coordinator. It has always belonged to the emergency coordinator. I placed my hands on the beacon controls. The crystalline structure pulsed brighter, responding to my touch with warmth that felt like recognition. Through the lighthouse windows, I could see the fog beginning to glow from within, ready to either dissipate forever or transform into something unprecedented. Emergency Coordinator Varric Ash. I spoke into my radio, following protocol even at the end of all protocols. Initiating integration sequence. All personnel prepare for reality transition. This is not a drill. Kalina's equipment registered the moment my emergency authorization activated the beacon. Reality hiccuped around us. The lighthouse briefly became every lighthouse that had ever existed. The fog below became every fog that had ever rolled in. And for one impossible moment, I could see every person who had ever made this choice, stretching back through 55-year intervals to the beginning of human consciousness. Darren smiled as he faded completely. Tell the next cycle's guide that 2024 chose integration. Tell them we chose hope. The beacon's light erupted outward, not destroying the fog but transforming it into something that had never existed before. A bridge between what was and what could be, guided by the collective wisdom of everyone who ever chose community over individual survival. Through the radio, Lasara's voice carried love and pride. Integration successful, Varric. Weather systems stabilizing in hybrid configuration. New reality holding steady. As the beacon light enveloped me, I felt myself becoming something between human and force of nature, between individual and community consciousness, between emergency coordinator and guardian of impossible transitions. The last thing I logged before transformation completed was the sound of Elric and Lysera finding each other in the lighthouse levels above, ready to help guide the merged world's first dawn. Final entry. Coordinator authority transferred to Integrated Reality Management System. Temporal signature detected. Reality merger 99.7% complete. Community integration protocols active. New emergency management structure online. Emergency coordination log. Entry number 47. Coordinator Varric Ash. Regional Emergency Management. Date. Temporal uncertainty. Convergence point. Location, Lighthouse Complex. Fog City/Normal Reality Intersection. Classification. Unprecedented. Reality Merger Protocol Active ****. The lighthouse keeper's hand shakes as he passes me the brass key. Thomas Meridian, missing since 1847, looks exactly as he did in the daguerreotype we found in the city archives, except for his eyes. They hold 178 years of patient waiting. The beacon requires emergency authority to activate, he says, voice carrying the weight of nearly 2 centuries. Maritime law, even supernatural maritime law, demands proper chain of command. I grip the key, feeling its impossible warmth. Through the lighthouse windows, I can see both realities struggling against each other. My normal world growing translucent while Fog City solidifies with each passing moment. The harbor holds ships from every era. Modern Coast Guard cutters alongside 19th century schooners, all anchored in the same impossible water. Varric. Lasara's voice crackles through my radio, interference patterns creating haunting harmonics. Weather station readings are, God, I don't know how to classify this. We're getting precipitation reports from 1902, barometric pressure from next Tuesday, and wind patterns that form perfect geometric spirals. Copy that, Lysera. Stand by for beacon activation. Thomas leads me up the spiral stairs, each step echoing through time. The lighthouse beam has been dark since 1847, he explains, waiting for the right emergency coordinator to arrive. Each cycle, someone comes close, but they always try to stop the process instead of guiding it. And if I guide it wrong, both realities collapse into temporal foam. No one survives. No one ever existed. His matter-of-fact delivery makes it worse. But you won't guide it wrong. You understand duty. The beacon room takes my breath away. The lens assembly is impossibly complex, not just focusing light, but refracting time itself. Crystalline structures grow from the walls, pulsing with bioluminescent energy. At the center, a control panel combines brass maritime instruments with technology that won't be invented for decades. Emergency coordinator override, I say, inserting the key into a slot marked with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Varric Ash, authorization code. I pause. My normal codes seem inadequate. Authorization code. All hands, all times, all realities. The lighthouse shudders. Below us, I hear Elric's voice shouting over maritime radio. Harbor Control. This is Patrol 7. The waters. It's showing me every ship that ever sailed here. Every ship that ever will sail here. I turn the key. Reality screams. The beacon erupts not with light, but with pure possibility. Through the lens, I can see the merger happening in real time. Streets from 1847 weave between modern buildings, creating an urban tapestry that somehow makes perfect sense. The harbor expands, deepening to accommodate vessels from every era. Parks appear where there were none, filled with trees that grow from saplings to ancient oaks in seconds. Phase 1 complete, Thomas announces, consulting an instrument that measures something beyond normal physics. Reality substrates are merging, initiating temporal stabilization sequence. The radio explodes with voices from every era, ship captains from the 1800s reporting to modern Coast Guard stations, emergency dispatchers from the 1950s coordinating with current EMTs, weather services from across the decades sharing data that creates the most accurate maritime forecast in history. Varric, you need to see this. Lysera's voice is filled with wonder. The weather patterns they're perfect. Every atmospheric system that ever existed here is integrating. We're getting the benefits of every climate cycle without the extreme events. Through the beacon's light, I watch the merger accelerate. Fog City residents emerge from their temporal pocket, blinking in the integrated sunlight. Mrs. Chun from 1957 shakes hands with modern shop owners. Harbor workers from 1902 examine contemporary equipment with professional interest while sharing techniques that were lost to time. But the most incredible sight is the sea itself. The water holds the memory of every tide, every storm, every calm day. Marine life from different eras swims together. Species thought extinct sharing the waves with modern fish. The ocean has become a living library of its own history. Emergency services. This is Coordinator Ash. I broadcast on all frequencies, my voice somehow reaching every era simultaneously. Reality merger is proceeding according to protocol. All personnel, prepare for integration procedures. This is not a disaster. This is an evolution. The responses come from everywhere and everywhen. Harbor Patrol, 1902, standing by for orders. Coast Guard Station, 1967, ready to assist. Emergency Medical Services, 2024, all units prepared for temporal displacement casualties. Weather Service, 1889, providing historical storm data for integration. Thomas checks his instruments again. Structural integrity holding. Temporal foundations stable. We're approaching the point of no return. I key my radio. All stations, all times, beacon protocol is working. Prepare for final integration phase. The lighthouse beam shifts, the light becoming something that exists in all spectrums simultaneously. I feel the moment when both realities stop fighting and start dancing together instead. The sensation is like the world's biggest emergency finally getting the coordination it deserves. Varric. Lasara's voice is soft now, close. I turn to see her climbing the lighthouse stairs, somehow having crossed from her weather station to the beacon room. The fog. It's not fog anymore. It's just possibility. She reaches the beacon room, and I see that she's right. Outside, the fog has transformed into something else entirely. A shimmering aurora that bridges earth and sky, past and future, what was and what could be. Status report, I say, because even in impossible circumstances, protocols matter. All emergency services integrated and operational, she reports. Maritime safety enhanced by historical knowledge. Weather patterns optimized by multitemporal data. Community services expanded by cross-era cooperation. She pauses, consulting her instruments. Varric, I think we actually did it. We didn't just prevent a disaster, we created something better. Thomas Meridian smiles, the first genuine expression I've seen from him. Phase 2 complete. Reality merger successful. Temporal stability achieved. He turns to me. Emergency Coordinator Ash, your duties are complete, though I suspect you'll find new ones soon enough. What do you mean? He points through the lighthouse windows. In the distance, other coastal cities show the same aurora shimmer beginning to form. The process is spreading. Every 55-year cycle point along the coast is activating. You've become the model for how to handle the impossible. I key my radio for the final time as emergency coordinator of a single reality. All stations, all times, beacon protocol successful. Reality integration complete. Prepare for expanded operations. The responses come like a chorus across the centuries. Understood, coordinator. Standing by for new protocols. Ready to serve the integrated community. Maritime safety enhanced and operational. Weather services expanded and functional. I hand the lighthouse key back to Thomas, but he shakes his head. Keep it. You'll need it for the next phase. Next phase. The mountains are starting to sing, Lysera says, checking her instruments, and the desert is showing cities that never were. I think we're going to need a much bigger emergency response manual. I pocket the key, feeling its weight. Outside, the aurora is spreading north and south along the coastline. Ships from every era are collaborating on rescue operations that span decades. Emergency services are sharing knowledge across time itself. Emergency Coordinator Varric Ash, final beacon protocol entry. I speak into the radio. Integration successful. Community stable. Reality improved. All hands, all times, all realities. We have work to do. The lighthouse beam settles into a steady, eternal glow. Through its light, I can see the future we've created. A world where every emergency response benefits from the wisdom of every era, where every disaster is met by the coordinated efforts of all time. It's not the world we lost. It's the world we found. Emergency Coordinator Log Entry. Varric Ash, badge number 2847. New Reality Day 10600 hours. Location: Integrated Emergency Operations Center. The sun came up this morning for the first time in, I'm not sure how to calculate it anymore. Time worked differently in there, but it came up on a world that didn't exist yesterday, and somehow that feels like the most normal thing that's happened in weeks. No fog at 4 p.m. yesterday. No fog at all. I'm sitting in what used to be my office, except now there's a window that looks out onto Harbor Street, and Harbor Street has buildings from 1847, 1902, 1957, and 2025 all standing in a row like they've always been there. The architecture shouldn't work together, but it does. Victorian storefronts lean companionably against mid-century office buildings. Art Deco facades catch the morning light and throw it onto glass and steel surfaces that somehow complement rather than clash. Lasara's voice crackles through the radio, clearer than it's been in days. Morning, Varric. You seeing the sunrise? Copy that. It's different. Understatement of the century. Or centuries, plural. Her laugh has an edge of wonder I've never heard before. I've got 12 different weather monitoring stations online, and they're all reporting the same thing. Normal atmospheric pressure, normal humidity, normal everything. Whatever normal means now. I check my watch. 6:15 a.m. It's been running correctly since the lighthouse beacon activation. Time moves forward again 1 second per second, like it's supposed to. 0630 hours. First integration incident. Mrs. Chun from Harbor Street Grocery called in what she described as a very polite emergency. Turns out the Victorian-era woman who appeared in her store wasn't shoplifting. She was trying to pay with 1902 currency and couldn't understand why the cash register wouldn't accept it. Dispatched Officer Martinez with Protocol IB1, Integration Banking. We wrote that one at 3 a.m. this morning when we realized people from different eras would need economic transition support. The Federal Reserve is going to love this paperwork. Mrs. Chun reports successful transaction completed using temporal exchange rate. Martinez radios back. Customer expressed satisfaction with these marvelous wrapped foods that keep without ice houses. I make a note. Expand grocery integration protocols to include refrigeration explanation seminars. 0730 hours Harbor Report. Elric's voice comes through on maritime frequency, steady and professional as ever. Harbor Authority to emergency coordination. We've got 17 vessels that weren't here yesterday now moored properly in slips that definitely didn't exist yesterday. All maritime safety inspections passed. It's like the harbor expanded overnight to accommodate them. Copy that, Harbor Authority. Any issues with the vintage vessels? Negative. The 1847 schooner is in better condition than half our modern boats. Captain Morrison, that's Captain Morrison from 1847, not the Morrison who runs the weekend fishing charters. He's offering to teach proper sail navigation to our Coast Guard auxiliary. Says our engines are ingenious but unreliable in storms. Through my new window, I can see the harbor. 3 sailing ships that belong in maritime museums sit alongside modern fishing boats and pleasure craft. A 1950s Coast Guard cutter gleams with fresh paint next to vessels that still have GPS displays. It looks like it's always been that way. 0815 hours. Weather Service update. Temporal Weather Service to Emergency Coordination. Lasara's adopted the new department name like she was born to it. I've got fascinating data coming in. The atmospheric patterns aren't just stable, they're more stable than they've ever been. It's like having multiple time periods worth of weather knowledge integrated into a single system that actually makes sense. Explain. The 1847 weather observers, they knew things about storm patterns that we lost when we started relying on satellite data. The 1902 folks understood ocean current interactions that we've been trying to model with computers. And the 1957 meteorologists, they had this intuitive grasp of pressure systems that our modern training kind of talked us out of. She pauses, and I can hear her shuffling through papers that probably contain the most revolutionary weather science in human history. Varric, I think the fog didn't just merge our realities. It merged our knowledge. I'm looking at weather prediction models that shouldn't be possible, but they work. They work better than anything we've ever had. 0900 hours. Community Response Assessment. The emergency line's been busy all morning, but not with emergencies. People calling to report that their neighbor from 1902 makes excellent bread and wants to trade recipes. A man from 1957 offering to repair everyone's vintage appliances because these modern ones break too easily. Children heading to school are walking with children from other eras, comparing lunch boxes and sharing stories. The Victorian kids are fascinated by juice boxes. The 1950s kids can't believe we let children carry phones. Dr. Sarah Kim from Community Mental Health Services stops by the office. I expected mass panic, she says, settling into the chair across from my desk. Culture shock, temporal displacement anxiety, reality dissociation disorders. Instead, I'm seeing the most psychologically healthy community response to crisis I've witnessed in 20 years of practice. How's that possible? They went through the same trauma we did. The fog, the uncertainty, the fear of losing everything. When you share that kind of experience, the surface differences, what year you're from, what technology you're used to, become less important than the fact that you all survived something impossible together. She pulls out a notebook. I'm documenting everything. This could revolutionize how we understand community resilience and cultural integration. 1,000 hours, regional communications. The radio crackles with incoming transmissions from up the coast. Seattle emergency management, then Portland, then San Francisco. All reporting the same phenomenon. Fog rolling in at exactly 4 p.m., lasting exactly 47 minutes with geometric precision and electronic interference. This is Regional Emergency Coordinator Davidson, Seattle. We're seeing your integration reports. Can you confirm successful merger protocols? I look out the window at Harbor Street, where a woman in 1847 dress is teaching a group of modern teenagers how to properly tend a horse while a 1957 mechanic explains carburetor repair to someone with a Tesla. Confirmed, Seattle. Integration successful. Recommend acceptance rather than resistance. The process works better when communities cooperate. Copy that. We're going to need those protocol manuals you mentioned. 1,200 hours lunch with Lisa. We meet at Harbor Street Cafe, which now serves food from 4 different time periods. Lisa orders something called 1902 stew, while I go with a 1957 burger that somehow tastes better than anything I've had in years. The fog's spreading, she says, stirring her stew. I'm tracking similar patterns developing along the entire Pacific coast. This wasn't just about our city. Global reset mechanism? That's my theory. The lighthouse keeper, before he completed his cycle, he said something about when the world is ready to remember all its times at once. I think we were a test case. I watch a family walk by outside. Parents from 2025, grandparents from 1957, and children who seem to exist comfortably in all time periods simultaneously. Test case for what? For humanity's ability to integrate rather than destroy. Most species that encounter temporal merger apparently choose one timeline and fight to eliminate the others. We chose to blend them. She reaches across the table and takes my hand. Her fingers are warm, solid, real in a way that feels more certain than anything felt during the fog days. Varric, I think we just proved that humans are ready for something bigger. The mountains are showing unusual seismic activity. Not earthquakes, harmonics, like they're singing. 1,400 hours protocol development. Back at the office, I spend the afternoon working with the team to develop new emergency protocols. We've got requests coming in from 12 cities now, all asking for guidance on fog integration procedures. The manual we're writing will probably be the strangest document in emergency management history. Protocol IB1, Economic Integration for Multitemporal Citizens. Protocol IB2, Educational Curriculum for Cross-Era Knowledge Transfer. Protocol IB3, Healthcare Adaptation for Historical Medical Knowledge. Protocol IB4, Infrastructure Management for Architecturally Diverse Communities. Protocol IB5, Cultural Mediation for Temporal Neighbor Disputes. Officer Martinez brings me coffee, real coffee, made by someone from 1902 who apparently understood beans better than any modern barista. Sir, we've got a situation developing at the high school. What kind of situation? The good kind, sir. The 1847 students are teaching wilderness survival skills. The 1902 students are running workshops on sustainable agriculture. The 1957 students are explaining mechanical repair without computer diagnostics. And our 2025 students are teaching everyone about global communication and digital literacy. He grins. The principal says it's the most engaged learning environment she's seen in 30 years. They want to make the integrated curriculum permanent. 1,600 hours, no fog. At 4 p.m., I stand at my office window and watch Harbor Street. People from different eras walk together, work together, live together. The Victorian woman who had trouble with Mrs. Chen's cash register this morning is now teaching a group of teenagers how to preserve food without refrigeration. The 1957 mechanic has 3 modern car owners gathered around him, explaining why their engines keep failing. No fog rolls in. No emergency alert sounds. The only sound is the normal bustle of a community that happens to span 178 years of human history and somehow makes it work. 1800 hours, end of shift. Lisa meets me as I'm locking up the office. The sunset paints Harbor Street in gold light that catches on windows from 4 different centuries. How was your first day as emergency coordinator for integrated reality? She asks. Surprisingly normal. Think you can handle it long term? I look down the street at the harbor, where sailing ships and modern vessels share the water like they've always belonged together. Children from different eras play together in the park while their parents, grandparents, great-great-grandparents share stories and knowledge. Yeah, I say. I think I can handle it. Personal note, 2,100 hours. This is my final entry in the Fog Integration series. Tomorrow I start a new log series, Regional Temporal Integration Coordination. The fog taught us something important. It's not about choosing between past and future, old and new, traditional and modern. It's about finding ways to make all of it work together. We have reports coming in from inland areas now. The mountains are indeed singing. Harmonic frequencies that suggest something even bigger than coastal integration is beginning. Forest rangers are reporting trees that grow in impossible patterns, streams that flow uphill in perfect spirals, wildlife that exhibits intelligence beyond normal parameters. I have a feeling our fog integration experience was just the first phase of something much larger. But tonight, I'm going home to a house that's somehow bigger inside than outside, to have dinner with Lisa while we plan our weekend visit to the 1847 farmers market and the 1957 drive-in movie theater, both of which now exist on the same Harbor Street where I've worked for 8 years. Tomorrow, we help other cities learn what we learned. Sometimes the emergency isn't about preventing change. Sometimes it's about managing change so well that it feels like coming home. Emergency Coordinator Varric Ash, signing off. Time to write a new manual. Emergency Management Log, Regional Supernatural Integration Division. Coordinator, Varric Ash, Level 7 Temporal Emergency Specialist. Date, October 15th, 2024, 91 days post-integration. Time, 1600 hours Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m., formerly fog time. Now integration review hour. Classification, public record, integration success documentation. Daily integration status report. 3 months. 91 days since the last fog rolled in at exactly 4 p.m. and changed everything forever. I'm updating our protocols again. 4th revision this month. The National Emergency Management Agency wants our integration model documented for Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco. Their fog cycles are beginning, and we're the only city that came through the merge successfully. Yesterday, I briefed FEMA on temporal displacement emergency response. Words I never thought I'd say in my career. The learning curve has been steep. Emergency coordination for a reality where half your population remembers the Great Depression firsthand, and the other half carries smartphones, requires creative solutions. Mrs. Chun from the Fog City Bakery District, original timeline, 1902, has been teaching our dispatch operators Morse code. Turns out it's more reliable than digital communication during reality fluctuations. Current population status. Original timeline residents, 47,234. Stable. Fog City integrated residents, 12,891. Adapting well. Temporal displacement cases, 47. Down from 238 in month 1. Reality adjustment therapy sessions, 1,205. Monthly average. Infrastructure adaptation progress. Lysara's weather integration reports show our atmospheric patterns have stabilized beautifully. The temporal weather service she established is getting requests for consultation from meteorological agencies worldwide. Her prediction models now incorporate supernatural atmospheric pressure variations with 94% accuracy. Better than normal weather forecasting ever was. The lighthouse still stands at the harbor, beacon dark now that its work is complete. Elric's Maritime Temporal Safety Division conducts tours for visiting emergency coordinators. The Harbor Patrol reports fishing yields up 300%, Turns out the Fog City fishing knowledge from the 1800s combined with modern sustainable practices creates remarkable results. Our emergency response times have improved dramatically. When you have residents who lived through the 1906 earthquake and others who survived Hurricane Katrina, your disaster preparedness gets incredibly sophisticated. The Fog City Fire Brigade's bucket chain methods, adapted with modern equipment, proved faster than our truck response for the apartment fire last week. Personal notes, professional evolution. I've been promoted to Regional Coordinator for Supernatural Emergency Management. The title still sounds surreal, but the work feels natural now. My old emergency management training emphasized controlling chaos, maintaining order, protecting the status quo. The new protocols emphasize adaptation, integration, and managing change rather than preventing it. Lisa and I have been working on standardizing the integration process for other cities. Our relationship deepened through the crisis in ways I couldn't have imagined. Sharing an impossible experience creates bonds that transcend normal relationship development. She jokes that surviving reality merger is better than couples therapy. She's not wrong. The hardest part was learning to honor our losses while celebrating our gains. We have a memorial garden for those we lost during the transition. Kalina's name is carved in stone quarried from the Fog City's temporal bedrock. Her final research notes became the foundation for our new physics understanding. The trees in the memorial grow in impossible spirals, defying normal botanical patterns. It's beautiful and heartbreaking. Darren's mission logs were found in the city archives after integration. He'd been documenting the cycle for years, preparing for this moment. His notes guided us through the first month of chaos. His final entry, emergency management isn't about preventing change. It's about helping people survive transformation. Ongoing challenges, next phase planning. Immediate concerns. Portland reports first synchronized fog formation, 3:47 p.m. daily, 13-minute duration. Seattle's fog patterns show geometric precision increasing weekly. San Francisco Bay Area experiencing maritime behavioral anomalies. Vancouver requesting consultation on unusual temporal weather events. New phenomena emerging. Mountain singing reported in Cascade Range. Frequency matches lighthouse beacon harmonics. Forest growth patterns showing temporal spirals similar to Memorial Garden. Wildlife displaying knowledge of events before they occur. Radio transmissions picking up voices from future weather reports. The fog was just the beginning. Whatever planetary system reset we experienced appears to be spreading inland. The mountains are awakening to the same forces that transformed our coast. My team is developing protocols for geological supernatural phenomena. Yesterday, we held our first Sentient Landscape Emergency Response Training Session. Community Integration Success Stories. The Fog City residents have become our greatest assets. Thomas Brennan, blacksmith from 1847, now runs the most successful custom metalwork shop in the region. His techniques, enhanced by modern materials, produce architectural elements that bend reality in aesthetically pleasing ways. The city commissioned him to create street lamps that provide both illumination and minor temporal stability. They help newly integrated residents adjust to timeline shifts. Elena Rodriguez, who disappeared into the fog in 1957, returned with nursing knowledge that spans 7 decades of medical advancement. She's training our emergency medical response teams in trauma care techniques that draw from both past wisdom and future innovations. Her first aid methods heal wounds that shouldn't heal, using combinations of traditional remedies and quantum field manipulation. The economic integration has exceeded all projections. Tourism increased 400%. People travel from around the world to experience our temporal district, where architecture from multiple eras exists in harmony. The Fog City artisan skills, combined with modern marketing, have created a sustainable economy that supports both timeline populations, technical protocol updates, standard operating procedures, revision 4.7, temporal displacement response, assessment, determine origin timeline and displacement duration, stabilization, provide temporal anchoring through familiar objects/people. Integration, Connect with Fog City Liaison for cultural orientation. Follow-up: weekly reality adjustment counseling for 6 months. Reality fluctuation management. Detection: monitor electromagnetic anomalies and gravity variations. Isolation: establish 50-meter perimeter around fluctuation zone. Mitigation: deploy temporal stabilization equipment, Fog City Lighthouse technology. Documentation: record all variations for National Supernatural Database. Supernatural Weather Emergency Response. Preparation: Lasara's Temporal Weather Service provides 72-hour supernatural forecasts. Implementation: deploy mixed timeline response teams for optimal skill coverage. Recovery: assess both physical and temporal damage to infrastructure. Lessons learned: update protocols based on supernatural weather behavior patterns. Regional coordination initiatives: I'm establishing the Pacific Northwest Supernatural Emergency Response Network. Portland's emergency coordinator, Maria Santos, has been experiencing fog patterns identical to our early stages. Seattle's James Mitchell reports increasingly precise timing. Their fog now arrives at 3:58 p.m. daily, duration extending by 30 seconds each occurrence. San Francisco presents unique challenges. Their fog patterns are irregular but showing signs of intelligence, responding to human observation and adapting to intervention attempts. The entity orchestrating these cycles appears to be customizing each city's experience based on local conditions and population needs. Our consultation protocol involves pre-integration assessment and community preparation, real-time integration support during critical transition periods, post-integration stabilization and protocol development, long-term supernatural phenomenon monitoring and response, future implications, strategic planning. The pattern is clear. Supernatural phenomena are awakening globally in response to humanity's readiness for expanded reality. Our successful integration has triggered a cascade effect. The mountains singing, the forests growing in temporal spirals, the wildlife displaying precognitive abilities, all indicate that the next phase involves Earth's geological and biological systems joining the supernatural integration. I'm developing protocols for geological supernatural events, mountain consciousness, singing stone formations, temporal caves, biological integration, precognitive wildlife, plants with temporal awareness, ecosystem evolution, atmospheric expansion, weather systems gaining intelligence, storm patterns showing intentional design, oceanic awakening, deep sea phenomena, tidal patterns responding to human emotional states. The emergency management field has evolved beyond crisis response to reality integration facilitation. We're not just protecting people from change anymore, we're helping them participate in planetary evolution. Personal reflection, new normal assessment. When I started this job 8 years ago, my biggest challenges were coordinating multi-agency responses to natural disasters and managing resource allocation during emergencies. Standard procedures, predictable problems, conventional solutions. Now I coordinate between timeline populations, manage reality fluctuations, and develop protocols for phenomena that shouldn't exist according to traditional physics. It's the same core mission, protecting and serving the community, but the definition of community has expanded to include residents from multiple centuries, and protection means facilitating positive change rather than preventing all change. The work is more challenging and more meaningful than anything I could have imagined. Every day brings new problems that require creative solutions, collaborative approaches, and adaptive thinking. The fog taught us that emergency management isn't about maintaining the status quo. It's about helping people navigate transformation with dignity and hope. Sarah says, "I smile more now than I did before the fog." She's right. Despite the losses, the challenges, the impossible learning curve, this work feels like what I was meant to do. Emergency coordination for an expanded reality where supernatural and natural coexist, where communities span centuries, where change is constant but manageable. Final entry series conclusion. Time: 16:47 Pacific Standard Time, 47 minutes past the old fog time ***. Today marks the end of my documentation of the fog integration process. This log series will be archived as the official record of humanity's first successful supernatural phenomenon integration. Copies are being distributed to emergency management agencies worldwide as our experiences spread to other communities. Tomorrow I begin a new log series, Mountain Song Protocol Development. The Cascade Range has been humming in harmonics that match our lighthouse beacon frequency. The sound is beautiful, complex, and growing stronger daily. Geological surveys show the mountains are structurally stable but acoustically active in ways that suggest consciousness. I'm assembling a team including geological specialists, acoustic engineers, and several Fog City residents who remember the last time the mountains sang. Apparently it was 1902, just before the Great Earthquake. But this time feels different. The singing is gentle, welcoming, curious rather than warning. The emergency never ended. It evolved. Emergency management used to be about returning to normal after disruption. Now it's about helping people create new normals that accommodate expanded reality. The fog taught us that some changes aren't emergencies to be solved, but opportunities to be embraced. We learned to live with mystery, to find stability in change, to build community across impossible differences. Those skills will serve us well as the mountains awaken, as the forests join the integration, as the entire planet participates in whatever transformation is unfolding. Final status report: community, stable and thriving. Integration, successful and ongoing. Protocols, established and adaptable. Team, experienced and ready. Next challenge: geological supernatural phenomena. Confidence level high. Lesson learned: emergency management is change management, and change management is community care. Emergency Coordinator Varric Esch. Regional Supernatural Integration Division. Pacific Northwest Emergency Management Agency. Ready for whatever comes next.